You know that I've worked in sports radio for years, decades. And one of the things that's always plagued sports radio, if we're being real honest about it, one of the things that's always plagued sports radio is the uninformed opinion. The hot take just for the sake of having a hot take.
Hot take guy.
Yeah, exactly. And I think we got a fair dose of that this week. And do I even bring his name up? I hesitate to bring his name up because I know that I know it's probably biting the hand that feeds me. Although I don't really work in sports radio anymore, and I'm not really bucking for jobs at this point. But Jason Smith from Fox Sports Radio, I believe he works overnight, went on this whole rant about Steph Curry. And I'm not going to describe it any more than I think this is one of the worst moments of the year. And it's embarrassing, in my opinion, that as a national radio host, you would say this.
Let's not confuse a fun player who gives you a lot of highlights with a guy who is raising the level of his team. Because in these 11 games, you know what the Warriors' record is now? 6-5. 6-5 in these 11.
Over 500,
30
baby.
points. Yeah, they just got there. They just got there. 30 points a night for 11 games in a row. He's had 40-point games in that mix. He has been absolutely huge. But it doesn't translate to wins and losses. Right? It doesn't. Steph Curry is fun. He's a human highlight reel. He's a phenomenal shooter. He's the best shooter I've seen in years. But is he raising the level of the Warriors? He's not.
Bro.
So wait. Let that sink in. Steph Curry, who is the best three-point shooter in the history of the NBA, who has won multiple championships, who is essentially playing on his own this year because he's got a ton of guys injured, doesn't have Klay Thompson, James Wiseman, who was having a great season, knee surgery out for the year. He's got very little around him. And he's got them in a position to get into the playoffs. And you're saying that he's not raising the level of play for the Golden State Warriors. Like, this doesn't even make any sense at all.
Yeah.
And it makes me wonder, and I'm going to turn into the guy that I always laugh at on this show. But do you think this guy has ever watched a Golden State Warrior game?
Yeah, I think that I think that a really bad, I don't know if it's a habit or a choice or whatever, a really bad thing that radio hosts like this guy do is they say, okay, I'm watching this game, I see what Steph is doing. I mean, clearly he's watching what Steph is doing. I think we can all agree on that. But at the same time, I think he's also saying, how can I get reaction? And this kind of take is one of two things. It's how can I get reaction? How can I get people to be outraged by it? Or I just don't know the NBA. I don't know the impact that Steph Curry is having. I don't know, how I can't realize or understand the fact that they wouldn't even be talking about getting into the play-in games if it wasn't for Steph Curry. So, and we don't have it here, but later on he makes a point and compares Steph Curry now to when LeBron James first entered the league and had Anderson Varejao as his number 2. And to that I say that's also showing your true colors, because what you're not saying is that back then, 15 years ago now, the league wasn't shooting threes the way the league is now. The league wasn't a 3-and-D league. LeBron could pretty much play one-on-one basketball, scoring 2 points every time down, and win games, which is not how the game is played anymore. Notice, LeBron's not doing that anymore, So this kind of take is one that is uninformed and one that just shows me that you are not watching not only Steph, you're not paying attention 100% to what impact he has, but you're also not paying attention to the rest of the league, and that's the most frustrating part.
Well, and I think you just need to watch the Philly game to understand why this is one of the most embarrassing things I've ever heard on a national network. The Golden State Warriors beat the Philadelphia 76ers the other night, 107-96. Steph had 49 points out of 107 by the team, almost half of their points. Their second leading scorer was Andrew Wiggins, who has been one of the biggest disappointments in the NBA since he was drafted.
Definitely a bust.
Damian Lee was their third leading scorer at 12 points.
Yeah.
The starting five that night was Draymond Green, who gave you 8 points and 6 rebounds. Kent Bazemore, a journeyman, who gave you 2 points. Kevon Looney gave you 5 points and 15 rebounds. And Andrew Wiggins gave you 16 points and 10 rebounds. That was the rest of the starting five.
And then you had Steph at 49 points.
And you had Damian Lee off the bench. You had Kelly Oubre off the bench for 9 points. Poole gave you 6. Like, that's the team he's playing with.
Yeah.
And you're telling me that it's his fault that they're a 500 team. You're telling me that there's no way he should be in the NBA MVP conversation because he's just a sideshow. He's a circus. Do you watch the NBA? And by the way, this moron's making the same point in the same point he's making the suggestion that Julius Randle should be in the MVP conversation far more than Steph Curry. This is a horrendous. This isn't even hot take guy. This is I don't know what I'm talking about guy.
Yeah.
This is I'm not prepared to be on the radio tonight guy. This is personal vendetta. Probably he's a Knicks fan, I would guess.
Yeah, he does, just to clarify, he does 7 Pacific, 10 Eastern. That's when his show starts. So, I mean, he's in a pretty good slot in terms of night radio.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and it's not like he's on, truly overnights. And so I just think that this is why, and I'd be curious to see what people say in the comments about this right here, which is this is why the local radio show has suffered over the last 5 years, and why podcasts, like ours or any of the other ones you listen to or whatever have grown, because I think that the radio setup and these guys take their life as a radio host for granted, and they don't value it.
Yes. And again, just in my experience, my whole life when I was doing a daily radio show essentially was making sure I knew what was happening. I spent the vast majority of my time watching sports or going to sporting events or going to practice or talking to people on the phone, text messaging, emailing, being in the know. The problem is that most guys don't do that. And my guess is that Jason Smith, who has been on a lot of great radio stations, has worked for the biggest names in sports, he's probably comfortable. And I'm amazed that I'm amazed that this level of preparation is allowed in a national network. And opinions are one thing. I've been a program director. I mentor a lot of radio hosts. Still to this day, I talk to a ton of radio hosts who ask me for advice. I will never critique somebody's opinion unless it's absolute garbage. And this is absolutely unprepared, unsubstantiated, cannot back it up when he was called by his co-host on it. And I want to play it again.
Yeah.
Because I want people I'm not just picking on this guy for nothing. This is Jason Smith on Fox Sports Radio, a national network, saying that Steph Curry doesn't make the Warriors better.
Let's not confuse a fun player who gives you a lot of highlights with a guy who is raising the level of his team. Because in these 11 games, you know what the Warriors' record is now? 6-5. 6-5 in these 11.
Over 500,
30 points. Yeah, they just got there. They just got there. 30 points a night for 11 games in a row. He's had 40-point games in that mix. He has been absolutely huge. But it doesn't translate to wins and losses. Right? It doesn't. Steph Curry is fun. He's a human highlight reel. He's a phenomenal shooter. He's the best shooter I've seen in years. But is he raising the level of the Warriors? He's not.
He's not raising the level of the Warriors, and they're 500 only, and it doesn't translate to wins. I can go up and down.
Dude.
Like, they beat the Nuggets, bro. Like, at 116-107, they beat the Nuggets, and he scored 53 points.
Do you want to talk about a player who should have more of an impact and who is very similar to Steph Curry in the way he plays the game? That's Trae Young. Trae Young should be having more of an impact with the Atlanta Hawks than he is, And I think that
Jason
Tatum, another great example. And I think the thing that's funny here is that on one hand he's saying, "Oh, well, Steph is amazing and he's scoring all these points," and he even says he was huge. But then on the other side of that, you're going to say that he doesn't help them win games and it doesn't translate. And think about it this way. I mean, the Philly game, to your credit, might be the best example. Bro, if he only scores 30 in that game, they lose. Like, he had to score 50 for them to win that game, man.
He had to score. Look at the Nuggets. They beat the Nuggets 116-107. He at least got more help. 17 from Wiggins, 14 from Bazemore, 18 from Green.
Yeah.
But he scored 53 points, and he was 10 of 18 from 3.
Yeah, and I think
he's not making them better.
The other thing that's so amazing about like what Curry is able to do, and let's continue to compare him to LeBron because that's who he was compared to by Jason Smith. I think the if you watch the NBA and have watched LeBron over the course of his career, even up to the current day, what you'll come to understand is that LeBron James does not play the same way that Steph plays. He drives to the basket. He's a more physical player. He's more of a distributor than Steph is because of the way the Lakers are built. And so when I look at Steph Curry's game, I say, dude, this guy, this is akin to what Megatron did for the Detroit Lions when he was on the field. The defense knew Matthew Stafford was going to Megatron, and they still couldn't stop it. The defense knows that Draymond Green is going to hand the ball off to Steph Curry. Steph's going to get a pick, and he's going to pull up at the logo. And you still can't stop it. So to say that, hey, this guy isn't affecting wins and losses, and like Julius Randle is somehow more of an MVP candidate than Steph Curry, I got news for you, bro. Steph Curry's a 2-time MVP in this league. It goes without saying, I think he's a 10 to 12-time All-Star at this point now, and he's won multiple rings. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that Steph Curry, A, is a winning player, and B, affects wins and losses.
Yeah, and a lot of people weighing in on Sports Talk Radio. Mark says, this is why I stopped listening to morning radio when you left Salt Lake City. Welcome back. I appreciate that very much. Thank you. Hot take guy is worst take guy. That's why radio in Phoenix sucks. Thank you, Michael.
Appreciate you saying that, bro. I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, Steve says, I'm amazed how much money sports talk radio guys make. Well, don't get carried away with that. I've never one time in my entire life listened to Fox Sports Radio, and now I know why. I mean, the truth. It's just, yeah. Sean says, imagine if Clay was healthy. Yeah.
This would be, dude, if Clay was healthy, they would be the team they were in 2016 when the Splash Brothers were forged, bro. Like, that's what this team would be.
Yep. Good morning. Lopes fan Gabe says, please don't remind me how awful Phoenix Sports Radio is.
Yeah.
Well, there's a reason we have this plaque over my right shoulder.
Just saying.
Best of Phoenix. We won it. We left. And maybe Trevin's got the best point. Trevin says, I listen to podcasts. That's it. I can't even turn on the radio without being frustrated.
Yeah.
Nick says, here's exactly why I got Sirius XM so I could listen to Howard Stern in the morning. Thanks for taking that time away from me. You're welcome. I think he means that as a compliment. I listen to Howard 100 all the time.
From the bottom of my heart, I'd like to take this chance to apologize to absolutely nobody. The double champ does what the fuck he wants.
That's right. I don't apologize to anybody.
Nobody.
Sean
Nobody.
says, "Sir, this is without Klay Thompson, who's been out all season."
Yeah.
Thank you. Like this is.
By the way, whoa, that's a great point. By the way, did we just forget that Steph Curry almost won the Raptors series after Klay Thompson went out of that series? Did we just forget all that?
Yeah.
He was one shot away from
Jake,
going to Game
stop.
7.
He doesn't make the Warriors better,
Bro.
They don't win because
Dude.
of him. And I got, what do you want out of sports radio? Here's my question. And if you're on YouTube right now, please give us a thumbs up. Please subscribe to us, our channel. It really helps the channel grow. Give us a thumbs up. Give us a subscribe. And then answer me this question. What is it you want from sports talk radio? What I want is I just want somebody to give me really good opinions that are based in information, that are backed up by fact. When you say Steph doesn't, this performance by Steph Curry has been great and it's been amazing to watch, but it doesn't translate to wins, it tells me you didn't watch the Philly game. It tells me you didn't watch the Denver game. It tells me you don't remember the NBA Finals.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it tells me you're just not prepared. I look at, like, Phoenix is an interesting market. It's really hard to listen to sports talk radio in Phoenix, honestly. The idea, and I think we did a really good show. We worked really hard. We were connected. We were issue-based. We knew people at every organization. Like, we worked really hard. We nailed the Sean Miller situation, the arena. Like, we really dug in and did our best every day to do a good show.
Yeah.
We got Dan Marley fired. Like, we did. No, I'm kidding. Lopes up. I'm kidding. The point is, Phoenix is terrible because you don't have anybody that works hard there, in my opinion.
Agreed.
You have a bunch of shows that just show up and flip the mic and are like, like the typical guy in sports talk radio will be like, what are we going to talk about today? Let's talk Suns. Okay, cool, perfect. Then what do you want to do? Let's talk Cardinals. Okay, cool. Then what do you want to do? Well, we should talk more Cardinals. Okay, then what? Well, let's talk Cardinals. Okay, great, perfect. Great idea. I didn't think of that. Okay, well, after we talk Cardinals, and then we're going to do Cardinals, and then in the next segment, we're going to do Cardinals. What do you want to talk about? Well, we should probably talk NFL. Oh, man, glad you brought that up. I almost forgot about the NFL. That's sports talk radio in Phoenix.
Yeah.
And when something happens with the D-backs, okay, yeah, maybe we'll have the manager on, and we'll ask real cursory surface-level questions like, how's it going, Skip? Right? Like, that's the hard-hitting interview. How's it going, Skip?
Yeah.
Like, that's what's wrong with radio in Phoenix. Now, conversely, in Chicago, radio in Chicago is part of the fabric of being a sports fan. Like, the score and, now, like, I find myself listening to ESPN 1000 in Chicago a lot. They got a new program director and a new kind of, ownership and management, and that station has really changed now. And I feel like that's a station, if you want to talk Cubs, I feel like if you want to talk Cubs, you're going to go to the Score. If you want to talk Bulls or if you want to talk Sox, you're going to go to AM 1000.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's the fabric of Chicago sports. Phoenix, it's just not that.
Yeah.
And
I think the thing in Phoenix too, and again, not to toot our own horn, but I think the reason that we had so much success when we were there doing our show, Monty in the Morning, is because we weren't doing the cursory level topics, but B, I think that in Phoenix, there are so many names, and you guys know the names. I don't have to go down the list, but there are so many names at that station that have been there for like 20 years, and they have no incentive to do better, right? To give you more quality. What's going to happen? You're really going to fire those guys? You're going to let them go? And then you've got another guy at the Fox station who is younger, who I feel like does work hard, but just doesn't know how to get to this next level with his content. And I think that so my point is the reason that we were able to do well is because oftentimes on topics we do disagree, but we're not just saying, hey, you're wrong, you're right, or whatever. Like, it is thoughtful arguments that really provoke the mind. And I think that's what's missing.
Yeah. Sorry, I had the camera pointed on me the whole time.
Hey.
You're not very attractive anyway. The point is, one of the more interesting parts of this conversation is, like, people from different markets. Like Gabe Ledley says, which is worse, hot take guy or lazy-ass call-in radio guy? Yeah, the last caller stole my thunder, but it's terrible.
Yeah.
Call-in radio guy is terrible. And it's terrible because, and this is way too behind the scenes, but like the producer that screens the callers doesn't do a good job.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, it's Vinny in Orland Park. Okay, Vinny, what do you want to talk about? Hey, one of the Cubs suck. All right, cool. Hang on. Like, that's how guys get on the radio.
Yeah.
When it really needs to be, hey, it's Vinny in Orland Park. Hey, Vinny, what do you want to talk about? The Cubs suck. Okay, well, can you give me more than that? What do you mean the Cubs suck? And the guy will say, well, Hayward can't hit his own dick weight, and, you Darvish should still be here, and like he'll give you all the shit, and you're like, all right, stop right there. I don't want you to tell me, tell Jim Bob and Stever on the radio. Make sure your radio's down. Listen through the phone. We'll be right to you.
Uh-huh.
And then like right before you go, they're going to take that caller. You go, hey, Jimmy in Orland Park, you're next. Hang on. Are you still there? Yeah. Good. Hayward still sucks. All right, cool. Hang on.
That's quite enough. We get it.
Right, and then when the Stevie and Jimmy John are like, all right, Jim in Orland Park, you want to talk Cubs? What's up? And the guy will usually go, oh, Hayward can't hit his dick weight, and I'm tired. Like he'll go right into it, and then you can hang up on him. The thing that's worse is like when a host is like, okay, well, like they'll go back and forth and fight with the caller.
Yeah,
give the guy his 15 seconds of life, and then hang up on him.
Yeah,
and go on and talk about what he talked about.
Yeah.
And then move on. Give your it's just,
not hard.
Caller-driven radio is not great,
and that's why I think
it's not great.
That's why I think like if we're looking at that angle of it, or just the topic selection, or anything, there's no incentive to again to what I call do better. Like have more quality about your show, bro. Like come in. Don't just say I don't even have a problem that the guy is running a take out there that says Steph Curry is not influencing Warrior wins and losses. That wouldn't be a problem if you had stats behind it, if you had, firsthand experiences behind it that you could explain.
Any way to justify
it. Like, it wouldn't be, it's not the opinion itself. It's the fact that you have nothing behind it outside of the fact that, hey, Steph Curry sucks, or hey, he doesn't influence wins. That's all you have.
All you have is it doesn't translate to wins.
Yeah.
Even though we single-handedly beat the Sixers. Played a huge part in beating.
Like if I was on that show with that guy,
two of the best teams in the NBA,
dude. If I was on that show with that guy, that would have been a call out for sure. That would have been like I wouldn't even brought up Julius Randle. I would have gone right to the Toronto playoff series last year. I would have gone to the fact that he has none of his guys playing with him. I would have gone to the fact that he's a multiple-time MVP, a multiple-time champion, and they wouldn't be in the position that they're in without his production.
Yep. Chase Sorensen says, if I wanted politics, I'd listen to political talk radio. This is just my opinion, which is no more valid than anyone else's. I want pure sports in a mix of local and national. Gotcha.
Fair.
Fat Jesus says, you were the best at food debates. Is a hot dog a sandwich? Which is true. Mike says, I want local. It really bothers me. I turn on the radio and I wind up hearing about Alabama when I want to talk Ute football. That's absolutely
yeah.
And it's one of those things I think. Well, like here in Salt Lake, it is BYU and Utah. Right now, it's the Jazz. They're the best team in the NBA. So you'd be talking Jazz today. You'd be talking Ute and BYU spring football. I think. Like, this is not a market to talk baseball in.
No.
Like, if you're on the radio in Salt Lake City, you're not talking Major League Baseball. You're just not.
Which is unfortunate because I love baseball, but you're not going to do it.
You're not. You have to talk lifestyle, and you have to talk football, and you got to talk jazz.
Yeah.
That's what this market's about. Now, in Phoenix, and maybe LA is more of a better example. You have to talk lifestyle and non-sports in LA to keep people's attention. Petros and Money on AM 570, the reason they win so much in LA and the reason that they have such a following is they're young, they're hip, and they move fast. Mm-hmm. But if you look at on ESPN 700 or 710 ESPN LA, you have Mason in Ireland, and that's a Lakers show. Like, that's a Rams show. That's like they have such a massive brand behind them in ESPN, and they have the Lakers, and like they have all this great content creating for itself. If you want local sports talk radio in LA, I'm probably flipping on 710 ESPN. Mm-hmm. Like that's what I'm going to. So I think it's different city to city. Mm-hmm. In New York, it's FAN and ESPN New York, right? Like Michael K. and like you have such a thirst and a desire to talk local sports in New York.
Yeah, well, and I think that the listenership in New York is extremely passionate, and I think the listenership in the West Coast markets tends to be a little more just kind of, I know it's cliche, but just sort of like go with the flow. Like, hey, am I vibing with this morning or not? Like, they're not like, hey, this is my channel. This is what I want to hear, and I'm going to stay here because they're giving it to me. It's just kind of like, hey, like, is this what I feel like this morning or not? And I think so often this applies to Salt Lake, this applies to Phoenix. It may apply to LA as well on some level. I think so often that there's not a lot of competition in some of these markets. Like in Phoenix, there's no competition. It's
None.
the ESPN station, and that's it. Don't care what you have to say about the Fox station because they're not a competition. They don't have a complete package.
Yeah.
And then in Salt Lake, I think it's the same thing. It's the same old names for like 10 years now, and it's just begging for somebody to come in and just light the world on fire with a show. I mean, it absolutely is.
Yep, I agree with that. Forgotten Soul says podcasts are 1,000 times better than radio. And we've talked a lot about this on the show as well, is that I think podcasts have really kind of taken over the world. I listen to a lot of podcasts.
Mm-hmm.
I listen to a lot of Spotify. I listen to, Jim Rome. I listen to Livestream. The shows I really listen to locally here, I'm just not a Gordon Monson fan.
Yeah.
But I think Spence Checketts is pretty good radio sometimes.
But that's the thing.
Like I have to rotate around the dial.
There's nothing that there's the word we're looking for here is dynamic. There's not a dynamic host here who is you can count on reliably day after day to come with something unique with passion behind it. We can't you like that one guy, I think it was Mike you said that, hey, I want to turn on the local radio and I want to hear Ute football talk. But here's the challenge with that. Every single day, if you're talking Ute football, you got to come with something new. Every single day that we talk Utah Jazz basketball,
It takes effort.
And so, you have to be willing and committed to finding the angles. And the only way you do that is to go to practice, is to be plugged in and do all of that. And I feel like a lot of these guys don't do that, and it costs them.
Well, Tyler makes a great point. Tyler says, Monty, I hate you. Yet I've listened for 6 years since you left Salt Lake City and now you're back. I love that you're talking jazz. I don't listen to local radio because I listen to you. Well, and I think that's the thing. The other part of this conversation that we have left out, obviously, is that personality-driven radio is what makes radio great. It is, you have to have some, and I'm not going to say some affinity, or you have to have some attraction to, liking to the opinions and the style of the host you're listening to. If everybody that listened to the show hated me, you would never listen, right? Like you wouldn't see the growth. We wouldn't be doing 10,000 people a week. We wouldn't be doing the numbers that this show's doing. You guys are here because Jake slurps Kevin Durant, which is why we hear about that every day. Right? But it's those recurring things like Real Fat Jesus talking about hot dog versus sandwich.
Yeah.
And that's how many years old is that?
3-4 years now.
But it's one of those things you remember, and it creates a connection. You have to have a connection. You have to be willing to go out and shake hands and talk to, bump elbows now in COVID times, with the people who listen to your shows. You have to be willing to do things like, the only reason we're giving away an Xbox on this show is because you guys really take care of us. We want to reward you for supporting this show. Getting to 500 subscribers my guess is a month from now we'll be pretty close to that, I would think. Getting there in 3 months is crazy.
Yeah, that's insane.
Yeah,
you're talking about picking up 1,500 subscribers a year at that rate.
Yeah, I think it's anyway. The point is, you have to have some attraction and some desire for the content that people create. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a really good point. There are a lot of people here in Salt Lake who have listened to us. We're on our 478th show, I think, today or something stupid like that.
It's so funny. The subscribers and the shows are lining up almost.
It is incredible how many people have listened to the show for over 6 years, who were in Salt Lake and listen to us in Phoenix, who are in Phoenix and listen to us in Salt Lake. It's because we really believe in relationship radio. We believe in doing a show that has interaction in it, where we listen to your comments. anyway, I don't mean to be self-serving.
No, I
really don't,
I mean,
but-
was there something else there? Another comment or something that you were going to?
No, just there's a lot of comments. There's a lot of people who I don't want to hear. I don't want to. Where's Trent's comment? Trent said, "I don't want to hear all about politics and Donald Trump and all the drama that I try to avoid. I come to sports radio to avoid that.
Yeah.
You guys do a pretty good job with that. When you do talk politics, it's usually short and to the point. Yeah, and that's what we try to do.
Yeah.
We try to be short and to the point.
And most of the time, those political topics, I would say most times intertwine with sports. Like there's some connection there. And yeah, we try to make sure we're thoughtful in that.